Media Servis. Ekskluzivno.
First of all, Ambassador, thank you for coming to our media, and we're going to start with the ever-present subject of Brexit.
Of course.
Could you explain us? I mean, it's quite fairly unknown, I expect, to everybody what's going to turn out of Brexit, but how much of an impact do you think Brexit is going to have on EU citizens and first of all, Croatian citizens that are planning, I don't know, to seek for a job in UK or to start a business or just to travel? How is it going to look like?
It's a really good question, and I wish I knew the answer. Of course, everybody would like to know. It's for sure that Brexit is going to produce significant change in the relationship that the UK has with the European Union. But it's not necessarily going to make it terribly worse. It's going to make it different. And Croatia and the UK have enjoyed a good relationship before we were both members of the European Union. I'm very confident that we're going to enjoy a good relationship after Brexit. That's not going to change. But the negotiation is just that. It's a negotiation. And like in any negotiation, everything is up for consideration at the moment. The Prime Minister is planning on notifying the European Union that we will, in fact, leave by the end of March. That's the Article 50 process. And at that point, the negotiations will begin and we'll see where we end up. But the Foreign Secretary said when he came to Croatia just recently that what he really wants and what he's confident that we will all secure is a good outcome for the European Union and a good outcome for the UK. It's in nobody's interest really to do anything else. And certainly we feel that a strong European Union is what we'd like to see carrying on. That would be good for Europe, good for the UK, and a strong Croatia is part of that, of course.
What is your perspective on this region in respect to, well, it's ever unstable region with respect to Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia joining the EU, and the Russian influence that is growing in this area?
Well, the stability of the region is something that we are always interested in. We don't take it for granted at all. We've seen tremendous progress made in the region over the past few years, and it's something that we are keen to ensure continues. It really comes down to the values that we embrace as a European nation, as a European continent, and values that we believe all should be entitled to. And that's why we are interested in the stability of the region for the sake of the people who live here, why we are interested in bringing Bosnia-Herzegovina, bringing Serbia, bringing others in the region into the European family, if you like, by making sure that they have the opportunity to enjoy those same values as we do. So we have a constant interest in the stability and the well-being of this part of the world.
Thank you. A bit trendy question, if I might say. Do you believe that Europe and Western-style democracy are on the turning point, considering the rise of populism? You know, we've seen Donald Trump, we've seen the elections in Austria, we've seen elections in Italy. We've got Viktor Orban on our doorstep. We've got elections in Netherlands coming up, where anti-Islamic party is on the rise. So what's your perspective on that?
What you're talking about is expressions of democracy, and it's really important, I think, that leaders, that governments around the world, and I don't really believe in a Western style of democracy. It's either democracy or it's not.
I'm just using that term because Viktor Orban himself said that he thinks that Western style of democracy has failed. I don't know, in Hungary or something.
Well, you'll have to ask him what he meant by that. But from my point of view, the idea of populism is nothing more, if you like, than an expression of something that is troubling people, issues that are on people's minds. And in a democracy, those people who are leading us, who have been elected to lead us, need to remember that they need to address those concerns, look into them, do something about them. The key for me is that a long-term view is taken. populism can often embrace a very short-termist view of the world that rarely delivers sustainable, stable results. So I don't really have a comment about the demise of Western-style democracy. What I would say is that a healthy democracy is constantly challenged by the people, by the media. They've got a really important role to play here. And those who have been elected to lead need to listen, as they are doing, and need to respond. That's how democracy works. So I'm not worried about the values that we have here in Europe suddenly being lost. I think that we all believe in them strongly and that they are strong enough to cope with that kind of challenge.
Thank you. Just another question. Do you believe that the current build-up of forces, of NATO forces, in respect with in things happening in Ukraine and Russia also building up her forces, is it some kind of tension, or is it just new positions in Europe? Do you think things could escalate? I mean, in some countries there are voices that Europe needs to spend more on defense system. What do you think?
Europe does need to spend more on its defence, and that's very clear. It's something that was noted in the Cardiff summit of NATO, where all of the members of NATO agreed that they would be committing 2% of their national budgets to defence spending, because security does matter. It's not about seeking to provoke. It's not about taking strong positions and threatening. It's about making sure that NATO is in a position to respond safely and to avoid confrontation by being in the right place at the right time, ready to react. I was really pleased to hear Defence Minister Krstičević telling me that he's confident that the amount of money that Croatia will be spending on its defence budget is going to grow in real terms. This is excellent news. It's not quite at the 2% yet, but it's working towards it. The UK is spending 2% of its GDP on defence issues, and these are really important issues that NATO and that the UK, as a member of NATO, as a permanent member of the Security Council, take very seriously indeed. It's, as I said before, it's about readiness. It's about being in the right place to ensure that all of our citizens are protected if they need protection.
And at the end, where do you see Croatian and British relations right now, and how can we improve it? Not just in terms of, as I said, in terms of tourism. You know, British tourists are every year the number of them is bigger on Croatian coast. But how can we improve economic relations?
I think the question you've asked me is the question that I've asked myself and my embassy staff. It's the biggest difference I want to make, if you like, to our bilateral relationship in the short time that I'm going to be here, is to improve our commercial relationship. There's so much potential, I believe, in Croatia, and so much potential in our commercial relationship that we're not yet taking advantage of. We're not getting right. So yes, we're sending tourists here. They're good tourists in that they spend a lot of money. So I hope that carries on. But I think there can be so much more to the relationship, and I've set it my goal that by the time I leave here, I need to be able to explain to London that the work of my embassy and my work has revolutionised the commercial relationship. Even if we're going to go through Brexit, I don't think that makes that doesn't change my ambition for what we can achieve together. And there's so much innovation here in Croatia. There's so much that is good and that really speaks to the British spirit about the design that we see. The application of science in Croatia is outstanding, really world class. And I think there's an awful lot we can do together. So you asked me, how do I see relations? I think they're excellent on a political level, on a bilateral level. And in school, they used to say, could do better. when it comes to, and that's my rating for our economic or commercial relationship, could do better, and my job is to make it better.
Well, thank you, Ambassador. I have no further questions.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Medija servis. Ekskluzivno.